She had a bullet that was lodged in the right side of her head. Imagine what she went through. She is a very happy puppy.
The original venue in 1923, those two trees were already established. How many thousands of kids? First experience is to come out here.
Any rural part of Houston, they're not in the urban core, and the people who live there are more likely self-sustaining.
Half of America is out of shape.
I never want to do crime, but here I am at Crime Stoppers. There were so many conversations about how they treated different pockets of the community. But as soon as I started to learn about the mission, I said, this has always been where I was supposed to be.
Made it a year without drinking, without drugs. I was still in this program. I graduated the program. So, man, that felt good. I actually went back to the program and spoke as a guest, which was an awesome experience just to be part of or asked to.
This is it. This is the series finale of Cruz Through TX. My name is Freddie Cruz, and today we're going to visit 5 of my favorite moments from the show. It's like picking 5 favorite children out of over 125, but I did what I did. And I stand by these picks. I highly recommend you go and binge listen to all the episodes. We've got doctors and coaches, and we've got entrepreneurs and business owners and nonprofit execs. We've got creatives. We got so much more. And I invite you to continue to listen. The show's going to live forever in the podcast universe as what we would call a zombie podcast. But this is the very deliberate ending to the show Cruz Through TX. You're going to hear first from a one-eyed miracle dog. You're going to hear about a hill that was built from medical center dirt. You're going to hear how to survive an apocalypse in the Galleria. You're going to hear about a mugshot that turned into a mission. You're going to hear about a kid who grew up watching Barbara Walters and is now running a world-famous organization that fights crime here in the Houston area. And without further ado, here are my top 5 moments from Cruz Through TX. Hi, Lynn. I met you and your husband Ike several years ago, and of course you had this beautiful little dog Bubbles with you. One Eye, a survivor of animal abuse. For my friends who are not quite familiar with her story and the story of your family and how you've taken her in, could you start there?
Sure. Bubbles was surrendered to the Bark Animal Shelter. Someone obviously saw what happened to her and brought her into the shelter because they basically didn't know what else to do for her. From there, Houston Pets Alive took her in and rescued her from the shelter. And we were volunteering at the Houston Pets Alive shelter, and that's where we met Bubbles. And we were lucky enough to become her medical foster parents. She was missing her right eye, and she had some issues with her jaw. So going through the process of going to the vets and getting x-rays and stuff, we discovered that she had a bullet that was lodged in the right side of her head, and she had a broken jaw on the right side also. So it was very obvious that she had been shot through the eye and also beaten with a hammer, and that's probably what broke her jaw.
Even all these years later, it's painful to hear that. And so as her foster mom and a failed foster now, and for anybody who doesn't know what a failed foster is, that means you fostered her and like, okay, that's it. We're not giving her back. We're keeping her.
We knew from the first moment we saw her, we were not giving her back.
You knew it was going to be a failure from the moment you got her.
Absolutely.
But does sharing her story get any easier?
It's still difficult. You might hear my voice kind of quiver a little bit as I tell her story, just because I kind of imagine what she went through. However, because of her resiliency and her attitude, it does make it easier because she is a very happy puppy. She always has been, even when she still had the bullet in her head. She was running around playing with other dogs and just living her life the best way that she could. So it was just our responsibility to get her through the medical stuff. She already had everything else handled. So it's important for us to tell her story, to make people aware that this stuff unfortunately does go on, and that dogs can come through it and they can lead a happy, joyful life even after something like this has happened.
You know, the original venue in 1923, because Miller's now 100 years old,
Yep.
the original venue on the same location in Herman Park was a concrete bandshell, very typical of the 1920s period. So those they had columns, 20 columns, 10 on each side. The two oak trees, those two giant trees that we have out here now, those two trees were already established in 1923. Certainly not what they are now, but they were there. They were big trees then. So the first production, they claim, newspaper articles say, was a municipal pageant called Springtime of Our Nation. They had 2,500 people in that show. Now, when you look at the photos of that bandshell, I don't see any restrooms available for the public. I see no dressing rooms for those 2,500 people. So obviously everybody came dressed and ready to go, whatever
Yeah.
they were doing. There was no hill at that time. It was just sort of a sloping lawn.
How do we get the hill, though?
When the city was excavating Fannin to expand the medical center,
Okay.
a mile down the road from the park, from the theater, they needed somewhere for all that dirt to go. And they thought, you know what? Let's just dump it over there by Miller. Let's just dump it in the park. And
Get
over
out.
time, yeah, it's the truth. So those dump trucks just kept on, and there's all of a sudden there's the hill. It certainly was the first, probably the only real big hill in Houston. How many thousands of kids first experience is to come out here, whether you're coming to see a performance or not, but you come to the park, and what do the kids want to do? They go run up that hill and roll down that hill
Guilty.
over and over and over again.
I don't know about over and over and over again, but I know I've had my fair share.
Exactly.
Because
Now,
it's fun.
it is fun, and that's a big part of what we're trying to sell.
So the book is Prepper. It's number 1 in a series of 5. And before we wrap up, Tom, let's do a short lightning round, beginning with the part of Houston most likely to survive the aftermath of an electromagnetic pulse attack. Oh my gosh, answer wisely, even though your first chapter is in the woodlands.
Sure. Any rural part of Houston, like say Atascocita, New Caney, Cut and Shoot, those are going to be the areas that survive because they're not in the urban core, and the people who live there are more likely self-sustaining in the way that they live their lives to begin with.
All right. Well, I think I might know the answer to the next one. The part of Houston least likely to survive the aftermath of an EMP attack.
Downtown, the Galleria.
Oh man.
Those probably those two areas.
What if you were to go to the very top floor of the West End at the Galleria? How long do you think it would take before you get marauded?
Oh, if you were to hide there.
Yeah, if you were to hide. Tom has a huge backpack full of food with his family. Yes. How long do you think you might be able to stick it out if you don't have a gun?
It would be a pretty long time because there's no elevator. So whoever's coming for you is going to have to climb all those stairs. They're going to be a lot less likely to do that.
Half of America is out of shape. I mean, you've got a great
right, and
point.
they have to do it in the dark. They'd have to do it in the dark.
See? Okay. All right. I like his odds. In a post-apocalyptic world, what would be your go-to hiding spot in the Houston area?
Good question. I don't know if I'd stay in the Houston area. I don't know. I mean,
Well, I mean, you wouldn't really have much of a
my,
choice though, because if your vehicle's connected to the grid, because it's like I mean, everything, even if it's not an EV, it's connected to some sort of electricity, right?
yeah, I mean, I don't have the old Ford pickup truck that the main character has that's EMP proof. 'Cause- so, gosh, I don't know. I'd hide in the closet on the first floor. I mean, I've frequently said I'll be the first person to die in an apocalypse. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'd go, to be honest with you. I mean, I will say, I mean, I do have a bug out bag in my car. All of us do. Like we have, my kids, my wife, we all have like survival bags in our trunks, which are good not just for an apocalypse, but if you were to get into some sort of accident or you got stuck somewhere or there's an emergency, you know. Um, and those little Garmins they use, both of my kids have those. So I mean, I would say we are definitely suburban preppers. I mean, we're more prepared than most, but
Yeah.
we're not like I'm not off grid and uh, self-sufficient.
If you could reverse engineer your life, what nuggets from your childhood or even adolescence can you point to that shaped your career, leading you to becoming CEO of Crime Stoppers?
Actually, there was quite a few. And I always said in law school, the one people would say, well, you did a master's in marriage and family therapy. You're in law school, so certainly you're going to do family law. I'd say, no, I don't think I want to do family laws, but I don't know. I said, well, I'll tell you what, I do know that I never want to do crime. I know that for sure. I didn't like criminal law, the class. I didn't take any additional criminal law related classes, but here I am at Crime Stoppers. And so when I go back and look at how did I find such a home here, and how did that day when I walked in the doors in 2006 and Catherine Cabanis, the executive director at the time, was looking for an intern at $10 an hour. How did I look at that and say, yes, that's me. That has to be me. And it really, when I do, and I love that question, if I reverse engineer and I look back, I grew up in a home, parents that were immigrants. I was the only one in my family born in America. My parents worked really hard to build a family for us and a life for us. And it was very common that dinners around our house were touched on law and public policy and safety because they come from the Middle East, a part of the world where it's anything can happen at any time, where people get killed for their faith or willingly die for their faith. People have such different views on poverty and justice if you're a male versus a female. I mean, these just are very common things we would talk about. And actually, one of my mentors growing up was Camelia Sadat, who was the daughter of President Anwar Sadat, the Egyptian president of Egypt. And I brought her to my elementary school third grade show and tell, thinking that was like the greatest thing you could bring. And she was going to talk about like history and policy, and, was so offended that the teacher gave the kids like crayons and color sheets and all these other parents were in the room. I was like, I brought this for the kids. But they were like, oh God, so bored by it. But that's sort of deeply woven in me. I remember watching Barbara Walters interview like national figures, sitting sort of crisscross on the floor of the family room in the 80s, thinking like, I just love this woman and I love what she's doing and I love these conversations and I love the impact they have on communities and cultures. Like I always found, the Boston Police Department to be such an interesting group. On the one hand, there were so many conversations about how they treated different pockets of the community. On the other hand, they were so diligent about public safety. So ultimately, when life brought me in a really roundabout way to this nonprofit called Crime Stoppers in 2006, walking in, I thought I would never work here. I'm just practicing interviewing in the nonprofit sector. But as soon as I started to learn about the mission, I said, this has always been where I was supposed to be. And I'll take any position they have, which was an internship at $10 an hour, which my husband thought was insane, but I knew it was where I was supposed to be.
Did a field sobriety test because he walked up to the window and was like, hey, it smells like alcohol. And I was like, yeah, I've been drinking, So,
oh man.
Yeah. So, he took me in. We did the process. To this day, me and that police officer are friends.
Get out.
Yes.
Well, it makes sense.
A week after I had got out, I went to go find him. And I looked for him at the police department, and people thought I was so weird because I was like, hey, I'm looking for this police officer who arrested me. And nobody. So when I finally met him and finally got to talk to him, I said, hey, look, I want to tell you this. I apologize if I was disrespectful that night in any way. And he tells me, he goes, look, Raul, he goes, I've arrested a lot of drunk people in my life. And he goes, and you were the most politest drunk I ever taken to jail. I was like, well, thank you.
It's one hell of a compliment.
Yeah, I was like,
you were a friendly drunk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, well, I normally don't get that. So I got in trouble. My mugshot was everywhere. You know, I was at the time I was trying to be, you know, I was in the community. People knew who I was because I was very active with the local VFW. Mm-hmm. So once, you know, I grew up in this town. I went to elementary school here, high school, I graduated. I did all that, and my mugshot came out, and it was everywhere.
Oh man,
yeah, it was on Facebook. It was everywhere.
Oh, so, there was Facebook. Okay, that's right. You're young, so there was Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
It's kind of MySpace, same thing.
MySpace,
your age.
Yeah. Or well, the newspaper. Jeez, man.
So it came out, man. It went everywhere.
Who put you on Facebook though?
The Brazoria County. Yeah. The local PD. They used to do this thing every week. They'd release a bunch of mug shots and they'd put you out there. But I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, no hard feelings. I learned from it, you know, so I ended up I got in trouble. I ended up getting into this veterans court program. This veteran court program where you have to do all these counselings. You have to do intense counseling in the VA, out of the VA. You have to do drug tests basically every day for drugs and alcohol. You know, so I was, at the beginning, I said this before, at the beginning, I was just doing it to check the box. I was like, okay, look, I messed up. Let me get over it. Mm-hmm. I'll do whatever they want me to do. And then I'll go back to being me. Mm-hmm. So I started doing it. You know, I made it 6 months. And I was like, all right, cool. 6 months, cool. Made it a year. Without drinking, without drugs. And I was like, this feels good.
And that's a long time, too.
Yeah. But I was still in this program. So I was like, I'm not going to say that this is going to be forever. Mm-hmm. I graduated the program. I was like, man, that felt good. So I started to do things that I never thought I would do. We started the apparel brand. You know, during COVID, we started the podcast. Well, towards the end of COVID, we started the podcast. And, I hit 2 years. I'm already out of the program. I actually went back to the program and spoke as a guest to the other graduates and to the other people, the other veterans, which was an awesome experience just to be part of or asked to. It's just so much that I hit 4 years in June, and I'm still rocking, man.
That, my friend, is what Cruz Through HTX is all about. We get knocked down, we get right back up. Houston is not about the skyscrapers, it's not about the traffic, it's not about the Texas Medical Center or the cultural arts scene or the restaurant scene. It is about the everyday people who are making things happen. Sometimes you see them on the news, most of the time you don't. And that's what makes the city an incredible place to live and to grow up and to have a family. The city is so weird, it's so spread out, it's so international. It is at times the worst place on earth. If you've ever had to sit through traffic with a car that doesn't have a working AC in the middle of I-10 on August 15th, you know that. But then also, you see the best of humanity. If you lived here in 2017, after Hurricane Harvey, you saw the best of everybody coming together. It didn't matter where you were from, what you look like, what your political affiliation is, whether or not you speak English, whether or not you grew up here. You saw the best of humanity post-Hurricane Harvey. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. But here's where I say the quiet part out loud. The show's got to go. It's ending. But the work is not. Now, if you've listened to this show and you've thought, I want stories like this, I want to tell them, actually. I want to tell stories like this. And I want to build a podcast that actually means something. And that is where my other show lives. Your Mic is where I'm going to be hanging out now. I've made a lot of really cool friends. Some of them are in Houston, okay? I've got a lot of pod BFFs, I call them, that are here in the Houston area. Shout out to Brittany and of course Raul. And shout out to William and Victoria and Ozeal and Samantha and all of my podcast partners at Speak Podcasting. Whether we're talking about the Rosa Integrity Bank, the National Museum of Funeral History, Drs. Sturm and Dr. Patton, whether we're talking about the Cromines Law Firm or Carolyn Cromines herself. I got so many podcast BFFs, and I want you to meet them. Some of them are, like I said, local. Some of them are from around the world. You're going to hear solo rants about the podcast business. You're going to hear guest interviews as well. And that's where you're going to find me. So yeah, Cruz Through HTX is over. And in some ways, it does feel like a breakup. But it's the good kind of breakup. The one where everybody walks away better. We're not ghosting anybody. We're not storming off the set because nobody listened to my show. I actually did pretty good. But to every guest who said yes to being on, to every listener who hit play and listened all the way through because attention spans are like really, really short. And to every dog who barked in the background, a heartfelt thank you. You gave this show life. And I appreciate that with all my heart and with all my soul. As I said, the podcast will continue to live in the universe. I'm not taking it down. It's on YouTube. It's on Apple and Spotify. And if you ever want to hear about the people who make this town great, give us a binge listen. My name is Freddie Cruz, and this has been Cruz Through HTX.